Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's April 20th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. Before we get started, just real quick comment. If you come to our website and you're a forum member or a premium member where you're able to access the forum is down. Um, Somehow we lost the data. There was some kind of glitch. Um, I believe we're going to be able to restore it. I know we can do a backup and go back to the latest backup and go from there if we have to, but I'm really hoping to avoid that. So the database tables are there. I see the data in them. So I just need to figure out, get some help in figuring out how to get that data out of those databases and back to the forum. So I know you can do backups and so forth, but um, the only way I can do the backups is do the whole thing. So anyway, needless to say, we got a small issue. I'm hoping we can resolve it. So I'm not going to do the backup until I know for sure we can't go back to where we left off from. If we do a backup, we'll probably lose a half a day's post or something like that, maybe even a day worth of post. But if I can get the backup from the current data that's already there, we shouldn't lose anything, and everything should be. So I'm gonna try that route first, and then we'll do what we got to do. So if that doesn't work, so anyway, I'm not gonna waste much time with that. But I've been working on that today, and so far I've not been able to get the help I need with it. So if anybody's the expert on how to do that, if you want to touch base with me by email, you can point me in the right direction. That would be great. Uh, if I don't get back to you, it means I probably got 50 responses. But if you can help, if you want to send me an email, it'd be greatly appreciated. And again, if you don't hear back from me, it probably just means I got so many responses that I didn't need 50 people to help me. I just need one. So I'm hoping at least one person out there might can point me in the right direction. But anyway, um, this is what we're looking at as far as the daily chart. We did get some follow through buying today. We closed off the highs again, so we're struggling to go higher. But this is pretty positive, and you can see the overnight we're already trying to work higher, and you can see where we found the resistance right at the next band here on our envelope strategy. So these are really accurate bands. We tend to get some good information from these. So anyway, hopefully we're going higher here. We'll see what happens. This is not the kind of follow through and we had like here, but we're still managing to push forward. And so as long as that continues, if we continue to push on up, we may look for that measured move. I took that off of here. Let's put it back on. I would say we're going to be looking at, I think it was up around 48.50, between 4,800 and 4,900, just north of 48.50. So we'll see what happens. I'm not convinced we're going to be able to do that yet, but I mean, I don't argue with these targets. If prices start moving in that direction, that's what we're going to look for until the price action shows us something else. But anyway, let's flip over to the intraday 2000 tick chart and go over the trades. Okay, here's a look at our intraday chart, and this is one of those days where it's not really easy to trade because you don't have a consistent turn location. They're fairly consistent, but we don't have many turns off of either one of them that really gives any setup. So all you could really do is trade the moves up and down to some degree, and this really got tough right in here, so you're better off just to stay out of that stuff. Um, yeah, the morning there was a few trades this morning, and then after that, it just really got tough to trade. So you can see it here. It doesn't look anything. I mean, it looked more positive on the daily chart, but you can see up until maybe 2 o'clock, we were almost unchanged on the price because here's yesterday's close. And so most of this came on the late afternoon rally, the upward. So otherwise, we were just up and down during the day. So we really closed, even though we closed up for the day, it was definitely off our opening up here, our regular session opening. So anyway, let's zoom in and we'll go through the trades and we'll wrap this day up. All right, here we are. 7 o'clock came just as we were topping out here, and you get a first entry. There's actually a second entry long, but right into that double top, this far away from the EMA, don't go long there because that's what happens to you. And that's what I'm always trying to point out. People going long into this resistance, even on a strong trend, you would have got stopped out. It eventually gets to exactly where you're going, but you get stopped out first. So you got to be really careful on that. Um, there's actually you don't want to go short here, even though you got to close outside a new high. There's no real setup to go short, and then suddenly you get a first entry, and it trades higher, and then it turns down again. So there's really a failed second entry there, but still it's right back. You got to go long right back into this resistance. So I don't think it's worthwhile. And then finally, you notice you have two legs up to a new high. You might take that trade right there. Generally, you need to wait on a lower high, which doesn't come over to here, and then that's really moved a little far to say, hey, I'm comfortable with that lower high, but it's still a chance to get short right at the highs of the range, and there's a good chance we're going to test the lows again. We don't quite get there, but that's an easy scalp, and then we come back up and we make a lower high, then we make a triple test that breaks higher and turns down. I don't think I would take this if you wait till this bar closes. If you were wanting to trade it with the engulfing bar after it breaks higher and then turns down and you go short one tick below this bar, I wouldn't have a problem with that. If I was going to trade this bar, I'd let it break lower and maybe drop a limit order a little higher up and see if you could get a little better entry. I'm not sure if you could have or not. Maybe a tick or so, but not much. Probably not much. But yeah, if that would have been a more bearish bar, you could have gone short right there. I just don't like it once it closes. So you almost had to trade that on the engulfing bar or pass it up. Then of course we run on down. But there's no other setups here. There is a second entry short here, but that's not the kind of second. Technically, that's not a second entry because you make a new low there. But it's like two legs back. It's like a little two-legged jog there. But even here, there's no setup because the signal bar is no good because technically that is a second entry. Notice the new low, first entry, second entry right here. But that's an inside bar. This is your signal bar. It doesn't qualify. There is a lower high here, but by that time you got all that support. Don't enter it because you see what happens. You would have survived this and got out of it, but that won't always happen. It'll bounce and stop you out and then go lower. And you can see even though it went lower, it didn't go much lower. And that's the danger of trying to go short into support across there like that. Just don't do it. It's not worth the risk. Of course, eventually we fail out the bottom. You get a first entry short, and then you get a second entry short, bounces right off the EMA. If it breaks higher here, go along with it. That's a failure reversal off the lows. And that's doesn't really take off like you would like, but it's still a quick, easy move. And then we just kind of bounce along. You do get a triple test. Notice you made the low. You test it once, you test it twice. You get a pretty good signal bar. I like that one. Of course, it goes back to the resistance and turns down. It's tempting to go short there, but you clearly got a trend line right here. And there's not much room there. And you see what happens. I don't know if you'd taken that, and I guarantee some people probably got fooled there. So you got 5 ticks there. So you would have gotten, that would have been a 4-tick failure on your scalp, and you would have got stopped out. And that's why we don't do that. Just don't go short. As bearish as that looks, that's a short trap all the way. Definitely take that to the long side. And notice here, you got a new low, and you get a first entry, and then it goes higher before it turns down. So it's a failed second entry short right off the key entry point. And you can see they trapped the shorts. Look at that bar, how it shot right back up. That's because they trapped all these shorts that are getting short here. That's a great, when you see that kind of move, you know they had them trapped. There is a higher low here, but I don't like going long right there. It's one you might risk. I mean, you could argue for that one to be green, but I'm just not crazy about it. If you don't have enough room to get out before that high, I'd be very leery of it. So you might let it break higher, see if you could get a limit order and give you a little extra room. Then maybe you take it. Otherwise, just skip that trade. Technically, this is a failure because this is a new swing low because it's lower than that one. And if you can't see that one, it's because it's a little more advanced. Again, notice the new low, and then you broke lower, but then you made another high, and then it turned down. So that's the second time it came past a low. So that is a failed second entry short. Um, and it is a new low there. So that you might look at that as a reversal, and it is off a key entry point. But the problem is it's too far away from the EMA to trade a reversal. So we wouldn't, you can't trade that one. And if you wait just a minute, you get a second entry long right at the key entry point, right at the midline, right at the EMA. You've got a break of this little short-term channel and a new low. You got to be careful using the midline and the EMA after you just came off the high. But notice we tested that once, twice, and that's a third test. So if it breaks higher, we're probably going higher. So you've got some proof here that you can go higher on this one, and that's the key to it. If we don't have these two bounces here, then you probably want to wait on this one to come back to the key entry point or the main trend line. But it runs up here and it finds resistance again, and you got double resistance here. There's a lower high here. I didn't mark it because we're still in an uptrend, but this is such a weak uptrend, and this is a ranged kind of day. You could definitely argue for that one, and it's really tempting, and it's really such a bearish signal bar too, that again they probably trap people, and you can see how it drops real quickly, and then it tries to go, that trend line tries to hang on, and it doesn't. And notice you get a triple test right here. You made the high, you test it once, you test it twice, and look how bearish. It's a little congested, and you expect prices may try to make a new test of this high here. However, it is the big picture's a range, and that's strong resistance, so there's a good chance we're going lower here. So you may risk that one on the triple test. It's not ideal, but such a bearish bar on a triple test, it's really hard to argue with that. You just, it's a trade you may want to take. And then, of course, you make a little double bottom here, and you get a first entry and a second entry that fails right off the key entry point. I like going long there. And you might have looked at this as a first entry, second entry, with that being the failure. And if you'd have taken that one, it works too. But this looks too congested here, so I'd count this as a new low and the first entry, second entry, and go long there. And again, you get a close outside a new high, and we already had a triple test here, and now we get another one with another big bearish bar on an engulfing bar. So I like going short there. And then if you just wait just a minute, you try to go higher once. You back up and you try to go higher twice. So there's a failure there and a big bearish bar. Again, it's a little congested, but the fact that we failed to go higher here 3 times and you make a lower high on that third attempt with that big bearish bar, the longs are probably going to be trapped again. And notice too that we didn't get back down to the lows here, and that's exactly where price is headed. And they reach it and then they bounce. So we run up, and there's no real good chance to trade this. And then we're just working sideways. I don't see anything here that would tempt me except maybe this short on a failed breakout. But generally you want to wait on a lower high because it made a new high each time here, and that's a little dangerous because you want more proof we're going lower. And the lower high is way down here, and it's too late. There's a couple of bounces down here, but you're not getting any rejection, no good signal bars. It does take off, but there's just no setup. And then here's your signal bar up here. So once again, no setup. But you do try to go higher once, twice, and fail. And there's that failure again. It looks very similar to this setup. It's basically a repeat pattern. I like going short there. It takes it a minute to work out, but it takes off. And that turns out to be a pretty good trade. Then we trade down here to the lows, and we actually pushed through this time, and you fell out the low side. I wouldn't trade this with that strong a trend line and no break yet. I would wait, and then you do get this failed breakout here. Again, I marked it green because it's right into the previous support. You probably want to wait on a lower high, but it's one you might consider, and it does turn out to be a pretty nice trade. And of course, the breakout fails just like you'd expect, and we trend back up. But I don't see any setups here. Unfortunately, there's just nothing. There's nothing much here to trade. Um, there is a second entry long here, not the best signal bar, a little congested, and then it shoots up, and then you're going sideways again. No setups there. Uh, that pretty much did it for the day. Just wasn't. It's just one of those days where it's a range day, but it's a difficult range day to trade. It's not a real easy day to trade. So um, anyway, there's not much more else I can say about today. So I'm going to wrap it up, and I'll continue to work on the forum, and hopefully we'll have it back to where we left off and not starting from scratch. I'll keep you posted. Um, hopefully I can get that resolved between now and tomorrow sometime. And we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, so we'll wrap up our week tomorrow. But I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next.